Ho ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. Last time we were in the middle of the Deus Ex Machina route with Senna, and we went to the Azomi building that is skyscraper. Azomi skyscraper, and went to the top floor where the office is, and then it turned out to be a trap. And we were kind of locked in there. And 28 hours have passed, and they're planning to stay, keep us there for 7 days, starve us of both water and food, and then torture us afterwards, it seems. So that's kind of fun, isn't it? Let us move on. So last time, around 28 hours had passed since we'd first gotten locked in here. During that time, I dozed off and lost consciousness countless times. I've been overwhelmed by a surge of uncontrollable emotions, with depression, mania, and other similar feelings, gigglomania more like, leaving me mentally exhausted. Senna and I hadn't said a single word to each other the entire time. She'd pretty much been completely and entirely useless ever since we'd gotten locked up, really. The final ray of hope was the PC. Aside from the one that had showed the detestable faces of the Diet member and that religion's founder, there were a ton of other monitors decorating the room. And every one of them was connected to a single PC. Since the PC was connected to the internet, I tried posting a bunch of SOS messages on various boards. But it had all been in vain. I hadn't been able to post anything at all. The PC could download just fine, but uploading was completely throttled. Any attempts at sending chat messages or emails were quickly snuffed out. Under the orders of those two old guys, someone somewhere had to have been watching us. But why were they letting us access any information at all? I would soon learn the answer to that question. A few hours later, after starting to gather info online, I checked the article's tab on Taboo on a whim. Riot breaks out at Shibuya's Scramble Crossing. An article with that title caught my eye. And immediately after that, it happened. Oh, earthquake. It all began with a tremor from below. The floor, no, the very building itself started to shake violently. The very next moment I was struck with a violent ringing in my ears. It was such an intensely shrill, resonant sound, my head felt like it was about to burst open. I looked at Senna, who was covering her ears in agony. And then, a thunderous roar. The entire building thrashed around violently, as if the world itself was trying to make a gigantic milkshake. That's a kind of cute way to think of an earthquake. Unable to stay upright anymore, I tumbled over and my back crashed against the wall. Senna was crouched down in the center of the room, curled into a ball. And above her head, the monitor affixed to the ceiling was swaying back and forth like a pendulum. The world suddenly went into slow motion. The swaying of the monitor slowed down. With a dull sound, the aluminium pole holding the monitor snapped. And it fell down, ever so slowly towards Senna. Oh no. It was a feeling I had experienced once before. It was exactly like when Iyase had jumped off the school roof. She was going to die. If that giant monitor fell on her head, Senna would die. I couldn't make it in time. There were roughly 5 meters between us. Besides, I didn't have the courage to risk my life to save a 3D girl anyway. Even so, a delusion flared to life inside my mind. In that delusion, I kicked off the shaking floor, bolted over to Senna, and threw my arms around her in a magnificent save. She's gonna fall in love with me. And all of that happened in an instant. In just the blink of an eye, my body teleported over to Senna, threw its arms around her, and tumbled to the floor. The sound of the monitor crashing to the ground echoed right beside my ear. Even though the room had been so dark before, my field of vision was dyed white. Did we make it? Along with the ear-splitting sound of an explosion, I was slammed with an even greater impact than before. And with that, my last thread of consciousness was severed. How long had I been out? My consciousness drifted in and out of a deep slumber. I felt a ticklish, slightly annoying tingle on the tip of my nose. And upon noticing that faint, ever so slightly warm sensation, I slowly began to open my eyes. Oh, there she is. Lovely. Huh? Senna's face was only a few inches from mine. Her long hair draped over my cheeks. Her faint breaths blew right against my nose. Her eyes were closed, but her eyelashes were quivering. She must have only lost consciousness. Takumi, be good. We were really, really close. If I wanted to, I could have easily moved in and kissed her. I frantically tried to skirt away, but my body wouldn't move. That was when I finally realised what exactly had happened. Keeping my head completely still, I tried to survey my surroundings, but it was pitch black. I couldn't make out anything. It felt like a thin film had been draped over my field of vision, but there was no film. It was just a cloud of dust. We'd been buried in rubble. So it wasn't that I couldn't see anything around me. It was that there weren't any gaps in the rubble at all. No matter what direction I looked, I couldn't find a single opening. We'd been lodged into an extremely cramped pocket of space beneath the rubble. Whenever I tried to force my hands or legs to move, I would hear the sound of pebbles crumbling to the ground. That sound made me realise I couldn't move or do anything at all. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead. Had there been an earthquake or something? Shibuya had experienced a lot of those recently, but maybe they'd all been foreshocks. If so, this could have been the biggest earthquake to hit Tokyo since the Great Kanto earthquake. Did that mean that Kozomi Building had collapsed? The terrorist attack that had happened in America several years back came to mind, bringing an intense wave of hopelessness with it. The fact that we hadn't been injured yet, despite being stuck in a crevice, was probably nothing more than an insane stroke of luck. Yet being the key word. The rubble was just barely holding itself together, maintaining an extremely delicate balance. I had no way of making sure, but it was definitely possible that dozens of tons of debris were piled on top of us. If I made a single wrong move, that balance would be lost, and then the massive pile of rubble would crush us in less than a second. Oh, I hate that feeling. I'm so claustrophobic, this would be my nightmare. Imagining that as my last moment, I instantly froze in fear. I didn't want to die. I couldn't handle the idea of being crushed to death in a place like this, where nobody would ever know. Hurry up and rescue me. A rescue squad. A self-defense force. I don't care who. Just get me out of here. I tried straining my ears to see if I could hear any people around, but there was nothing but silence. A deafening, eerie silence. All I could hear was the sound of Senna's breathing. Damn it. Sleep like a goddamn baby, why don't you? Senna was lying sprawled on top of me, our bodies tightly pressed against each other. Takumi. Perfectly complementing one another. Her chest, her stomach, her legs. Nearly her entire body was right on top of me. She was heavy. She was heavy, and being forced to feel the softness of her arms and how slender her legs were, oh God. Naturally, I could still feel Senna's breath heating in my cheek, and within it I could smell something sweet. Perhaps because of the crunchy-coons she was always eating. Her breaths were deep and steady. They followed a distinct rhythm. And each time she breathed, I could feel her breasts faintly moving up and down directly against my body. Was this some kind of torture? An attack of this magnitude would cause all sense of reason within me to crumble in 5 minutes tops. Is this all a delusion caused by No the Second to try and harvest Takumi's code? Is that what's going on here? Is that possible? What the fuck is code? Better not be what I think it is. I needed to wake her up somehow in order to avert this crisis. Wait, I'd have to wake her up. Would it be right for me to do that? You cannot wake up a woman when she's sleeping. I mean, if I woke her up and she saw the state we were in, how would she react? She was the same girl who regularly scowled at everyone and everything. So even though it was an accident far beyond my control, there was no doubt in my mind that she'd label me a pervert anyway. Considering she wouldn't be thinking clearly, there was the very real possibility that she might rip out my throat. And at this distance, taking Senna's position into account, not only could she easily do that, but I would be completely defenseless against it too. Well, that was probably a bit too extreme to be realistic, but if Senna really were to wake up in a panic, she could very well end up causing the rubble to collapse on top of us, and that'd be the end of it. What the hell was I supposed to do? If I could have ripped my hair out, I would have. But since I obviously couldn't do that, I resorted to banging the back of my head against the rubble. Through that, I was able to suppress my instinctual lust for Senna. Don't pay this wrench any heed. I'm not and never will be into 3D girls. The girls I love are all 2D. Saratan, appear before me. Drive these worldly desires from my mind. I'm not into stuck-up bitches like her. So I won't give in to my lust. I mustn't give in to my lust. I mustn't give in to my lust. I mustn't give in to my lust. I can't control it anymore. Takumi! She is unconscious, isn't she? Surely no one will mind if I make ample use of her while she is... How do I taste those arrogant lips of hers? The same ones that do nothing but spew self-righteous bullshit. This is not cool. No, I shouldn't go straight for the lips. I'm not mentally prepared for that quite yet. In that case, how about I aim for the cheek? What does the skin of a 3D girl taste like, I wonder? Does it taste like sweat, or does it perhaps taste sweet? Well, he's gross. Add. Startled, I cut off the delusion inside my head. Senna's voice leaked out of her mouth, mixing in with her breath. It was quiet as a whisper. Her voice was so soft and frail. I'd have never imagined it could come from someone who was normally so fierce and unapproachable. Dad. Her eyes were still closed. It didn't seem like she'd woken up yet. She'd been talking in her sleep. I instantly felt a pang of relief, realizing she hadn't read my impure, perverted thoughts. From behind her closed eyelids, a tiny drop fell. Lips. Her closed eyelids. You don't have lips on your eyes. And with a barely audible plop, it landed on my cheek. It was so very warm, and yet, after only a fleeting moment, it went cold. Even Senna cried sometimes, I suppose. Now even I was starting to feel sad. Something happened between her and her father. Hey. A little worried, I timidly called out to her. With a twitch, Senna's body started to stir. Her eyes gently opened. I wonder whether they're going to be able to cause... If Takumi's having his delusions, does that mean that Senna can cause her D-sword to be real booted now? At point-blank range, our eyes met. The drowsy Senna stared at me. Her eyes were still sleepy. She didn't seem to be fully awake yet. Don't look. It's embarrassing. It didn't take long for Senna's face to instantly turn beet red. Her eyes shot open and her gaze raced from side to side. What's going on here? Don't move, we'll be crushed by the rubble. Rubble? I explained to Senna how we'd been buried alive by the earthquake. Right. There were these violent tremors, then a large monitor fell up from above and... You saved me, didn't you? Oh, yeah, that did happen, didn't it? Though I don't have a single clue as to how. Well, thanks. And I'm the one who was supposed to protect you. I never would have thought that I'd be the one getting saved. I thought you'd be a lot more helpless, but turns out even you can step up and be a man when you have to. Oh, okay. Well, that's a backhanded compliment, if ever I heard one. Thank you. I would have never thought I'd get complimented like that in a million years. It must have been the first time in my entire life that I'd gotten a compliment from a 3D girl. Granted, Sarah Tan told me I was totally amazing, all the time, but still. Unfortunately, our situation doesn't look great, huh? Yeah, we're pressed right up against each other. Idiot. That's not what I meant. I'm talking about how we've been buried alive. Sorry. Well, being pressed up against each other like this isn't great either. Try doing something with your that's me. Try doing something with your gigglomaniac powers. You should be able to, right? It might be difficult, but I'll do what I can. Nishijo, look into my eyes. What? Why? We have to establish mutual recognition between us. Did she just ask me to look into her eyes? Being squished together like this was already embarrassing enough, but doing that would completely smash my sense of reason. Smash my sense of reason I had left. I'd go feral. Sometimes I feel like maybe I've got like a hint of dyslexia because I'll suddenly see sense of reason, and I'll mix up the letters and say something like Seizen, Rents of Seizen, or whatever I was trying to say. Stop wasting time. I know you heard me. Look into my eyes. Urged on by Senna's voice, I reluctantly obeyed. I gazed into her eyes. Then those eyes turned directly toward me. Okay, yeah, this was really embarrassing. I never made eye contact with a girl for such a long time before. I never even looked people in the eye while talking to them in the first place, so I wasn't even close to comfortable with this. Making eye contact essentially meant that you were the only thing the other person was looking at. Right now I was reflected in Senna's eyes, meaning I was the only thing that she was looking at. I was monopolizing Senna's field of vision. We were so close. Upon realizing that, I couldn't help but think this embarrassing act was just as erotic as any H scene ever was. Curse my Eroge brain. Shit. I needed to stop these idiotic delusions. We were making eye contact. What if Senna were to see through me? You wouldn't normally be able to read someone's thoughts just by looking into their eyes. But Kozapi could. And Senna was a gigglomaniac as well. I couldn't do this. Making eye contact with the girl was impossible. Stop looking away, Nishijo. Despite her saying that, Senna's gaze wasn't pointed in the right direction either. I can't do this. Oh, that was supposed to be me. Never mind. Actually, I can't do it either. Being this close is embarrassing. Seeing Senna's stained beet red breathed some life back into me, actually. Where had all this mo come from? Was this girl not actually 3D? A girl this cute couldn't be 3D. Senna. You're so cute, Senna. It's hot in here. Senna's forehead, face, and even the nape of her neck were drenched in sweat. With how close we were, I could even smell it. There was no wind or anything either. The rubble burying us had no openings. Was there even a way for air to pass through at all? If not, then we were gonna run out of oxygen pretty soon. Upon thinking that, I realised that Senna's breathing had become really heavy. The rhythmic movement of her small chest on top of me had gotten much faster than before. Are you suffocating? Shut up. It's just hot. Damn it, what was I supposed to take from that? Whatever. Just use your gigglomaniac powers. Gigglomaniac powers already. Shouldn't you be able to make all of this debris disappear like magic? Nishijo, can't you do something? I can't concentrate like this. The hell are you on about? Don't tell me you're going to start relying on me now. How exactly do you expect me to do anything about this? Materializing a flower bed beneath Ayase and saving you earlier were both just coincidences. It's not like I did any of it on purpose, let alone consciously. Don't rely on me. I'm supposed to rely on you, Senna. Also, please stop breathing all this warm air on me. It's actual torture. A drop of Senna's sweat fell into my mouth. It was salty. Ugh. Ugh, god damn it. I was on the verge of tears. My sense of reason was this close to flying out the goddamn window. It was in my mouth. I was holding it in my mouth. Senna's juice is... Ugh. Nishijo. Senna's face was still red, but she seemed to be a lot more angry than she was before.
I'll fucking kill you.
Huh? What? All I did was taste your sweat. You can't kill me for that. Besides, it's your fault for letting it drop into my mouth.
Taking advantage of this. How dare!
In the middle of speaking, Senna buried her face in my chest, unable to bear the embarrassment. There was no way she had done it intentionally, but for me, that was the strongest blow out of anything so far. Ugh, so cute. Her breathing, it was passing through the gaps in my clothes and directly onto my skin.
Shit.
Quickly realizing what she'd done, Senna pulled her head back. Couldn't it have lasted just a little while longer?
Stop it. What the hell are you thinking about?
She was obviously shaken. Maybe she was just used to being the tough person in the room, so someone else taking control really left her flustered.
Cut off. Your delusion's right now, Nishijo. Your, your finger's hardened and it's touching my thigh, you idiot.
Okay, cool. What? Yeah, I did feel something there. Senna's soft, pillowy thighs.
I said to stop the goddamn delusions.
Suddenly, I found my face on the receiving end of a brutal headbutt. And since it was a surprise attack and a mighty strong one at that, the single strike knocked me out like a light.
I have no intention of returning to the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light. That's truly most regrettable.
Oh, that's truly most regrettable. I very much value your skills as a scientist. Oh, that's her father. I believe took advantage of is a more apt description. I'll believe in your words no longer. I'm fully aware that your role as founder is nothing more than another farce. Did you not wish for the Divine Light's salvation as well? I did wish for that once, but not anymore. Then what exactly is it that you desire? Atonement through death. Once one has come into contact with the Divine Light, they can no longer part from it. Even if you plan to distance yourself, the Divine Light will not abandon even the most estranged soul. My reliance on a god has come to an end. Oh, my reliance on a god has come to an end. As someone who's created something on the level of such a being, I have no right to cling to such beliefs.
Nishijo. Wake up, Nishijo.
I could hear an extremely pompous conversation between two unfamiliar men. Senna's hushed shouts jutted in between the two voices, causing me to open my eyes. Unsurprisingly, we were still squished together, enclosed in rubble with no way to escape. You chose this future of your own volition, leaving the responsibility all upon you. That burden is too much for one man to bear, wouldn't you say? If the salvation of the Divine Light were to be bestowed upon you, you'd be provided moderate relief. Indeed, this is the future I chose, under the Divine Light's guidance, or rather your guidance. Kuramachi Yudai.
Someone's here. You can hear them, can't you?
I nodded in response. I could hear the voices of two men. It seemed like some cosmic Church of the Divine Light randos. At the very least, it definitely wasn't a rescue party.
It's him. And he's close.
I could vividly hear the sound of Senna gritting her teeth. Is it her dad? Save your embellishments. Kuramachi. Oh, hang on. This is the father. Kuramachi Yudai. I refuse to fall victim to your silver tongue anymore. That is most regrettable. However, despite your absence, Noah II has already been completed. All that remains is to transmit our will throughout the world. Not our, but yours. And Inahana Kozu's, correct? Indeed, now that the third melt experiment has proven a success, Project Noah has now completed its trial phase. A third man joined the conversation. What the hell were they talking about? And where was it coming from? The fact that we could hear their voices meant that they had to be at least somewhere close to us. Maybe there wasn't as much rubble on top of us as we might have thought. Senna shifted slightly. Her hand gripped my uniform tightly. So tightly it was like she was enduring an intense pain. Her gaze pointed downward, but she didn't make eye contact with me. What happened to Senna? From this day forth, the ones who shall control the world will fall from 300 to 2. Today marks the dawn of a new world order. My field of vision was suddenly overwhelmed with light. The small pieces of rubble surrounding us began to crumble. Senna raised her head in shock. A hand reached toward us from above, peeking through a gap in the rubble. Are you alright, Senna? You! That hand began to pull Senna up through the debris. As it did, the crevice beneath the rubble widened, and once her weight was lifted off of me, I could finally move again. I crawled out of the gap that had been made by Senna's body. It was a room in the Nozomi building, the very same room we'd been trapped in. To think that you, just like Narose, would refuse our generous offer. Oh, do you truly wish to live as livestock rather than the ruling side? Rather than on the ruling side? Almost all of the monitors had been that had been hanging from the ceiling had crashed to the floor, leaving all of their screens broken. Naturally, nothing was displayed on them anymore. Even the walls and various other chunks of the room were beginning to collapse. But all in all, the room wasn't anywhere near as bad as I expected it to be. I'd assumed we'd been buried alive, but there wasn't even that much rubble. In hindsight, I could have probably escaped if I'd tried to. I felt like such an idiot for being too scared to move. There he is. Ugh. Senna. Senna was facing a man I'd never seen before. He was wearing a ragged coat that complemented his cloudy eyes. Overall, he looked like your typical homeless man. I had the feeling I'd met him somewhere before, but I couldn't remember where. Maybe we'd passed each other in Shibuya at some point. Aside from the two of them, there was no one else there. The voices of the people who'd trapped us, the member of the House of Representatives and the Cosmic Church's founder, must have come from a speaker somewhere in the room. Oh my, I see you finally managed to reunite with your daughter, Hatano. Oh, how very touching. Daughter? That man was Senna's father. I definitely heard Senna say the name Hatano before. Please, do enjoy your touching reunion to the fullest. When you're satisfied, please take a seat and enjoy the upheaval of the world as we now know it. Once we fully activate Noah II, it will be possible for it to exert its influence over not only the people of Shibuya, but all humans who reside in this world. The network has already been fully constructed. Suddenly the voice from the speaker was cut short. And then a series of strange sounds came through them, which meant that the power had been cut off. Something was wrong. Were those gunshots? After the gunshots came the raspy sounds of a man breathing raggedly. Impossible! This can't be! I was to be the ruler of... Gah! A final, deathly scream. And then, with a dull click, the audio was cut short once more and the speaker fell silent. An oppressive silence covered the room. What had just happened? Were they killed? Killed? By whom? I don't know. The two voices were being broadcast from somewhere else and the audio was coming out of the speakers. So how close were they to the room we were in? At the very least, they had to be somewhere in the building. Taking that into consideration, the culprit who killed those two had to be close by. Let's get out of here. There could be a crazed murderer on the loose.
And just who exactly is this crazed murderer? Why were those two killed? No, hold on. How'd you know they were killed? Do you have proof?
Calm yourself, Senna.
I'm not talking to you.
You heard that scream, right? They had to have been killed. Who'd killed them? Shogun. But wait, wasn't Shogun supposed to be a member of Nozomi? No, that's just an assumption on my part. There was no evidence proving he had anything to do with them. Running away might prove slightly difficult. This building is on the verge of collapse. There are cracks appearing everywhere, and the walls are starting to warp inward. Immediately after I entered the room, the entrance was sealed off by rubble. It was just as Hatano said. But I had this nagging feeling, one that told me that considering the way that the walls and everything around us had collapsed, there was way more debris than there should have been. I had a bad feeling about this. Well, it wasn't like I'd ever been to an abandoned building before, so I couldn't exactly judge the relationship between the way a room collapsed and the amount of rubble produced. The only thing I knew for sure was that we'd managed to escape being buried alive, but the fact that we were still locked in hadn't changed. We could destroy it with my D-sword. It finally occurred to me that the bizarre resonant sound from earlier had finally stopped. Maybe the earthquake had destroyed the device that had been the source. I think it was called a porter. If that was true, then Senna might be able to get us out of here. I breathed a sigh of relief, then waited to hear Senna's brilliant plan of escape. However, she didn't take out her D-sword. She simply continued to glare at Hatano-san.
What were you talking about with those two?
We weren't able to come to a mutual understanding. A tale as old as time, wouldn't you say?
You couldn't come to a mutual understanding? Is that really true? Are you not still in contact with them? Where the hell have you been? What the hell were you doing for the past 6 months? What the hell made you decide to appear now of all times? Have you been watching us from somewhere inside the building?
For the past 6 months I've been roaming around Shibuya, longing for death. I had no intention of returning to the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light, nor Nozomi technology. Senna gave a light click of the tongue and turned around to me.
What leads you to believe those two were killed?
You know. Those men have many enemies. Tano stepped in. Anyone could have killed them in truth. Like I said before,
I'm not talking to you.
But there was a scream and we heard a bunch of gunshots.
Are you sure that's what happened? What if it was just an act? Were we even hearing the voices in real time?
What was she talking about?
In spite of Japan's very extensive earthquake precautions, the head office of one of the biggest mega corporations in the country has taken this much damage.
Needless to say, there must have been an incredibly large earthquake.
So, why were those two yammering on and on about classified information to us through a speaker? And why now?
Senna painstakingly enunciated her each and every word, as if to make sure I knew exactly what I was claiming. Classified information? What, like Noah the Second and the Third Melt? Not that I knew anything about them either way.
It all felt pretty performative. Maybe they needed us to hear what they were saying. Why else would they leak classified information to us? Were those two actually there when they spoke to us, or could they have died before the earthquake ever even occurred? Nishijou, ever since we infiltrated the building, we've yet to run into those two even a single time, correct?
But they were talking on the monitor.
On the monitor, yes. In reality, we never actually met them. They could easily be fake. And of course, everything with the speakers goes without saying. Something is wrong here. Very, very wrong. And
Hatano, staring at me with wide eyes, interrupted Senna. Nishijou Takumi-kun. Is that really you? I see. You are... Don't move. Senna, in response to being ignored, called out to Hatano-san in a sharp voice. Oh, she said it more like,
don't move. I'll ask again. Why are you here?
I came to save you two. No. It might be more accurate to say I came here to be killed.
Oh, don't worry. I'll kill you very soon, but before that, answer my questions.
And next time on Borderline Games, we're going to see Hatano answer Senna's questions. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head, and I will see you next time. Have a great evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.